Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. I wanted to wish everybody a happy 4th of July on this Thursday evening. Obviously, hopefully, people are out and about, uh, having barbecues and maybe waiting for the fireworks shows, or maybe have a fireworks of their own in their backyard or with the neighbors or something like that. But wherever you are tonight, I hope you're enjoying this holiday, whether it's just for today or if you also have another day off as well tomorrow, since it's Friday. Thankfully, I'm off tomorrow as well, which I didn't find out until yesterday. But my co-host is, as always, from the Awful Announcing, the associate editor Ken Fang. And last night, Ken was joined by special guest, former three-time Olympic gold medalist swimmer, and now the analyst with the NBC Sports, who is very, very busy with his trip planned for Paris Olympics, I believe, later this summer. And if you haven't watched it yesterday, I was at work till about well past 8 o'clock because I'm on a night shift all this month. So Ken and Rowdy was able to have a great conversation for almost 45 minutes, I believe. And if you haven't watched the video, it's uploaded on our YouTube channel. And if you're a big Olympian and if you love swimming, I hope you have a chance to listen to Rowdy's interview with Ken from last night. And Ken, what was your overall impression from yesterday's interview, since I wasn't here yesterday?
Yeah, it was a great interview. Rowdy, of course, is great. He's done the Olympics broadcasting since 1992. Interestingly enough, he's worked with Dan Hicks since 1996. He's seen a lot. As you mentioned, he's a three-time gold medalist from the 1984 Los Angeles Games. We talked a lot about the upcoming Olympics, the strong team the United States has that's going to be participating in the Olympics. He said overall they'll probably do very well, but the most gold medals will likely be won by Australia. But in mentioning that about the relays, he says the United States should probably win those. In addition, we talked about mental health and how important that was. That was really great to see because Rowdy had a really bit of lack of confidence going into the 1984 games. He talked about it. He's very, when he talks about Simone Manuel, who has had her own mental health issues, he can relate to that. And we also talked about doping. We also talked about the Chinese swimmers and their doping issues as well. So it's a good conversation. As mentioned, it is up on the YouTube channel on YouTube. But that's under my name, under Fangs Bites. You can also I've been retweeting it also from my Twitter account. So I'll retweet it again later on tonight. It's a fantastic interview. 45 minutes. We like to thank NBC Sports Public Relations for allowing us to have Rowdy last night. It's something I've been wanting to speak. I've been a big fan of Rowdy's for quite some time, and it was great to have him on and just to hear him talk and do long form, because sometimes when you're doing announcing and you're in that, you got to do quick bites. You got to do those quick, analysis, those snippets of maybe 5 seconds or less. We're able to go long form and talk and talk extensively. It was really good to talk to him about that. And also want to mention next week we'll have Anna Yurka. I believe if you're still working, Stephen, we'll probably have her on next Wednesday.
Unfortunately, I'm off. I'm actually working night shift well past 8 o'clock. So any interview you're planning this month, Ken, unfortunately, you're doing solo. So, I hope you still, for those watching us tonight or have been watching us, at least for this month, I have a night shift. So it will be somewhat of a later time now that we're both on the East Coast time. But, based on the guests' availability, whether it's through their own or through publicists, it will be probably mostly Ken doing the solo interview, at least for the rest of July. Just wanted to give you a heads up. And then if you're wondering, well, why is this other guy, Steven, not on? It is because I'm working a late shift for the entire month of July, well past 8
Totally
o'clock,
understand.
sometimes 9 p.m. So, Ken will be more than happy to interview Anna Yurka, who we've had several months ago. She was actually working for Fox Sports in their Copa America coverage. But with the U.S. Men's national team crashing out, and we will get to that mostly on our show tonight. We will get to in a little bit, but with Anna out and Jenny Taft doing most of the work, she's off Fox Sports, and I believe she's heading to Paris with what was it, Telemundo?
No, she's not working at Telemundo anymore. So
Oh, that's right. She was with Telemundo before she left earlier this year,
yes.
right?
So yeah, she left Telemundo. She's working freelancing, but we'll have an opportunity to speak with Anna next week. We look forward to talking to her about her experience being embedded with the Argentinians and following Lionel Messi during the group stage, her impressions of Copa, and also we'll talk to her about Gregg Berhalter. Like everyone is talking about Gregg Berhalter, and we'll talk about Gregg Berhalter as well on this show. But
right,
it'll be quite interesting. Anna is a fantastic personality, very popular amongst the Hispanic community, and we look forward to having her on next week, next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern time. I am also working on another guest, which I'm not going to announce yet because that's not confirmed. But I'm working on a few other guests, and I'll release those when I can on my socials, and Stephen will let you know on his socials as well. But in any event, we had Rowdy Gaines last night, a fantastic interview. We look forward to more interviews down the line. Maybe even getting Amy Trask, who we had on at the beginning of the year when she started her podcast. What the football with
Schuster
Susie Schuster. Yeah, I couldn't remember Rich Eisen's
was
wife.
married to Rich Eisen.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we'll we hope to get Amy on one more time before football season starts. And but again, I'm working on some other guests as well through my connections, and hopefully we'll hear from them. But definitely Anna Yurka next week, and you'll see that at 7:30 Eastern time next Wednesday, right here on the Double A team. Stephen, we got a lot of things to talk about. I hate to
Well, let's
talk.
start with the main topic, of course, is the obviously U.S. men's national team and Copa America. So we'll get right to it. U.S. crashes out of the Copa America following their loss to Uruguay on Monday in Kansas City. I have to say, the game pretty much, for the most part, I thought U.S. played a very spirited game. The one before, of course, was the game against Panama in Atlanta. That game was just a cluster, whatever you want to call it, just an S show of physicality, fouls. It all began with the U.S. Tim Weah getting ejected for a weak, punchy through to a Panamanian player in the 18th minute of the game, and that really changed the trajectory, not only for the game but for the entire course for the U.S. soccer for this tournament.
Yeah.
As a result, he got ejected for 2 games, and it was just such an embarrassing show. U.S. got the goal to start with.
Yeah, Balogun got the great goal, and it looked like maybe that they were going to be recovering, and maybe that they could get that goal.
But that goal actually got taken off, unfortunately.
Yes,
because of an offside.
Right.
And then from there, I think that's shortly after that goal was taken away. That's when the physicality kind of got out of control, and then Webb got shoved. And then there was a VAR on that play in which they had to determine what it was, and it turned out that Ware got ejected for throwing a weak punch to a Panamanian player. And from that point on, basically for the rest of the game, 75, 80 minutes or so, the U.S. had to play with 10 men. And actually, they got a goal from Florian Balogun, who scored
That's
a
the one I
game.
was mentioning. Yeah.
Who scored against Bolivia, and then had a fantastic goal, even with 10 men. U.S. looked pretty decent, but then from that point, I just became a Gregg Berhalter special, where they try to bunker and try to defend that lead for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
which
they just
obviously wasn't.
Yeah, you can't sit on a lead with 10 men. You just can't do that. And that is just, it just baffles me to no end. I know I can understand your even strength, 11 men, but still, you go up one goal and then you just do this silly sitting back and then just try to like allow your defense to be under siege for the rest of the game. That just plays right into Panama's strength, because Panama just kept going forward, and then they got a goal, and then eventually got a second goal. It was just ridiculous. It was really bad playing, bad preparation by Gregg Berhalter. You even you go to halftime, you try to make adjustments. There were no adjustments. There were no adjustments whatsoever. And I was just shocked watching that game, Stephen. I was shocked watching Gregg Berhalter just not make any effort whatsoever. And just want to say a shout out to our original producer and guy who came in, Aldo, from the
Barroom Network. Yes,
Barroom Network. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aldo.
Thank you, Aldo.
Thank you. And thank you very much for allowing us to keep the Double 18 name when we left Barroom Network. And thank you very much. We appreciate you as always. Happy Independence Day to you, and we thank you. We thank Aldo very much. He helped us. He was the original platform for this show, and one of a person who gave us the guidance to get this show going. And thank you very much. And Aldo,
thank you, Aldo. Thank you. Happy. I hope you're doing very well health wise as well, Aldo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. But also too, I just really, Stephen, it just boils me to no end that we have a guy like such a a guy who just and I'm still very angry. I can't talk, dude. That's how angry I am about Gregg Berhalter.
It's been his MO. It's been his MO.
And I told you, I when we predicted this, I said I wasn't after the Colombia game, the Colombia friendly, and how they played against Brazil. They played a little bit better against Brazil in that friendly, in the last friendly before Copa America. But I still had no confidence that this team would get out of the group. I know you said they would. I had no confidence that they would get out of this group. I hate to be right on this one, but
no. You were right, unfortunately.
It was Gregg Berhalter gave me no confidence, especially after the team quit against Colombia in that friendly. Granted, it was a friendly, but you want to show some life in two games, the two games before you go to Copa America against teams you could potentially play. Colombia, yes, is one of the better teams in CONMEBOL. It is one of the better teams, and they've showed it, I guess, especially when they played Brazil in the group stage. They were very tough against Brazil. You have a chance to show something. They did not, and they didn't. They failed to show. They did show some potential in the very first game, as you mentioned, against Bolivia. But then after that, crashing and burning in the next two games. Hardly. I mean, yes, they did try to show some urgency in their final game, knowing that they had to win against a tough Uruguay team. But you put yourself in that position because you lost to Panama, a team you should have beat. And that's the thing about this team, Stephen. We've seen it before throughout this. The theme has been the same. Teams they need to beat, whether it's for World Cup qualifying, whether it's against the in Copa America, whether it's getting to a certain level, they plateau. They didn't even get to that level this time. They didn't get out of the group stage. They didn't even get to the knockout round. I mean, their MO lately has been getting to the knockout round round of 16 and losing. And you're supposed to get better with each cycle. They have not gotten better with each cycle. And Gregg Berhalter, he needs to go. He needs to go now.
Right. Should he stay or should he go? Obviously, both of us are pretty much had enough of him. 6 years of lack of progress was evident during the Copa America. I think a lot of the players that was tagged the golden generation. I think we kind of use that term a little bit loosely, kind of like when we describe a certain player as quote generational, end quote, which we not us, of course, we don't work in media, but a lot of people in media tends to overhype people or team, which unfortunately, most of the time, they really, really never live up to their hype or never live up to their end of the bargain. And individually, there's no question that the U.S. team has a lot of talent. It's probably the best talent that they have assembled so far. Pulisic plays for AC Milan, Weston, McKinney, and Tim Weah plays for Juventus. All three of them play in Italy, Serie A. And then you have Anthony Robinson, who is a British American playing for Fulham. Tim Ream, also his teammates at Fulham, playing for English Premier League. Chris Richards also plays for the Crystal Palace with the Premier League. You have Johnny playing, a Brazilian American playing for Real Betis, playing really well to close out the year at La Liga. You see a lot of players nowadays playing, 95% of the players playing in Europe, competing at a high level. And that needs to continue because, unfortunately, the U.S. Soccer Federation has only scheduled the U.S. team with a bunch of cream puff weak national teams to try and puff up the win totals for Gregg Berhalter. And even those games, like the ones of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, I know they probably played either one of them. Oman, and then just a lot of lesser nations. Even against those teams, they still had the same problems tactically, lineup-wise. Statistically, it just wasn't impressive. And unfortunately, all these things, the years and years, just finally accumulated, and it just really, really blew up in a embarrassing fashion for the U.S. And the U.S. National team and the players, unfortunately, they have no one else to blame but themselves. And I hate to say this, and I know Ken would also agree with me on this too as well. But listen, no one wants to be right about these types of things. That we celebrate losing, And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the U.S. to do all that well, And if this is a result that will make a significant changes, and I know there are conflicting reports out right now with regards to the future of Gregg Berhalter. And I know a lot of people in this country, in four major sports, we talk about tanking a lot, and then whether it's acceptable or whether it's celebrated. And as a Bears fan, a couple of years ago, when the Bears finished the year with the worst record in football and had the number one overall pick, we parlayed that pick into, or duped into Carolina Panthers to give up a couple of players and a couple of picks, which obviously became Bryce Young, and then the Bears were able to get the Panthers number one overall pick to get Caleb Williams this year in the April draft. And I know these things are kind of not harped on, or we shouldn't be celebrating losing for the sake of losing. But if this is going to make the U.S. fans, and by God, we are finally starting to see, Berhalter out, hashtag Berhalter out, fire Berhalter, all over on social media nowadays. And if it really makes us want to change, or at least the fans are demanding the change now, I think that this loss, while it stinks in the short term, Ken, if it forces the U.S. to look themselves in a mirror for once, The leadership council led by General Manager J.T. Baston, President Cindy Cohn Pardo, or Pardo Cohn, whatever it is, a former women's national team player, and then also the sporting director Matt Crocker. All three of them decided that somehow, despite the allegations of domestic violence against then his girlfriend, now his wife, that overshadowed the whole conversation between Berhalter, Gio Reyna, and the Reynas that was being, done behind closed doors. Bringing him back was an absolute disaster. It was a mess, and it has this has to lead to a massive change, which obviously Ken is posting about. The great Jurgen Klopp, who left the managerial job with Liverpool up until last year. This past year, as a leading candidate, where former U.S. men's national team great goalkeeper Tim Howard says, "I can go to Great Britain right now, talk to Klopp, and convince him to take this job," which made the headlines all over on social media yesterday. And I know a lot of people want Klopp to, take over, even if it's only for 2-year period, but it has to be realistic. And, a man of Klopp's credentials, would cost well over $10 million. And I know there are conflicting reports about if the U.S., for example, has to pay somebody $5-10 million, then that the U.S. women's national team coach, Emma Hayes, will have to make that equal amount because of the settlement, which, by the way, that report, unfortunately, is not true. Just because if somebody makes $5-10 million doesn't mean that Emma Hayes has to make that same amount of money immediately. That's not similarly the case. But because of the U.S.'s history of sexism, and then, their battle with the, women's national team over the years, they have kind of mismanaged the money, and then it really, really hurt their reputation as well. But again, even if Klopp isn't coming, we have to aim higher for somebody who is of that ilk, and then do the best they can and try and find somebody comparable. And I will say this: anybody is better than Gregg Berhalter. That's how bad it is. I tell you, a college coach could be much better than Gregg Berhalter. Your youth soccer team, the soccer team that your son or daughter coaches, if there is anybody out there who's listening right now, it could be much better option than Gregg Berhalter. That's how bad it is, Ken.
Yeah, and let me tell, my good friend Claire has come in and said, yes, USMNT should get Klopp. It's currently an embarrassment. I agree. Even if we don't, Jose Mourinho wanted to coach this team. And yes, Mourinho has his issues. And usually it's about a 3-year window with Mourinho. But that 3-year window could be a World Cup to get you to a place where he could give you an organization. And one thing about Mourinho is, and that he's a proven winner, whether with my Chelsea twice, or whether it is with different teams in La Liga or in Serie A, or even with Manchester United. He's a proven winner. And here's a guy, yes, the 3-year window is very true with Mourinho. Players tune him out after 3 years, and he wanted to come here. The United States didn't listen, but he wanted to come here. If the United States had listened and hired him with his organizational skills and development, the team would have been in a better place. And then when he left in that 3-year period, would have had a lot more respect. Now, whether they would have fallen off after that, who knows? Because Chelsea fell off after he was there. Other teams fall off after he leaves. But he would have gotten the United States to, I think, a respectable position, and at least would have asked to have better competition in friendlies instead of Oman, instead of Uzbekistan, instead of Central American teams, or even CONCACAF
Mexico's teams. Weak Mexico team that they have beaten 5 straight times, pretty much. Yeah, that really kind of gave us inflated the false hopes there.
Right.
Too.
I understand that Europe, yes, the high quality is there. When they do friendlies against each other, they get better. But the United States has to find a way. If it's playing calm the ball, if it's playing Brazil 4 times, if it's playing Colombia 4 times, if it's playing Uruguay 4 times, fine. You have to get better. You have to play the competition that will make you get better. And if it makes you lose a few friendlies, who cares? It's fine because you find a way. You say, "Oh, we're not playing better. We have to get better because Uruguay exposed a weakness. We have to get better at that." Or Brazil exposed a weakness in the back line. We have to get better at that. That's how you get better, is that you play better competition. It's not playing weak competition. It's not playing in a field that is too wet for you to play in. It's not playing Trinidad and Tobago. It's not playing. It's not playing the school. It's not playing. Grenada. You have to get better by playing the best teams. If you have to travel to Europe to play an international friendly, so be it. You have to get better. You need to get better. The United States, this whole system, first of all, we could get into pay to play, which other countries don't have. The United States has made it expensive to develop talent. I don't understand why that is when you have academies all over Europe and South America and trying to bring in good players. And I understand that you're trying to make money, but still, pay to play has made it so that you have priced out some of your better players, and that talent goes to other sports. So the United States is looking for a way to, first of all, change the system internally, get better, get a coach who can just give him the reins to help with the organization, get better competition, find a way to improve, and then find a way, get that. I mean, even if it doesn't mean getting Jurgen Klopp, get somebody who just knows how to do organization, get you that, and have the connections, and say, "Hey, look, let's let's get some of the better people who can get us a better reputation, a better system, and not play. After you get a goal in the first 5 minutes of a game, you just decide to play back and let your back line be under siege for 85 minutes. So, and then, let's hope that they let's hope they get better, Stephen. I'm getting angry. I don't want to get angry. It's July 4th. It's warm in my house. I don't want to start sweating.
Yeah, well, no problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the best part about this Copa America, the best and the worst part, as you can see on my post here, I think a lot of people are finally starting to wake up and demonstrate their frustration. For example, here, Joe Emmer, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Dear U.S. Soccer, USMNT, my son and I love the team. We're a middle-class family who chooses to spend our vacation money traveling to games. We care too much to completely boycott, but I can't pay any more travel/tickets until you #fire Berhalter. Do the right thing. #Berhalter out. So it's gotten a lot of views already, 30,000. My friend, tactical manager Filippo Silva, who I've had the pleasure of going to his YouTube channel live stream and also interviewed him in the past, has been out in full force about wanting to get rid of Gregg Berhalter. We talked about this on our last stream as well. It's just the worst part is the expensive seating, and then the expensive parking. Even the game against the U.S. and Uruguay in Kansas City at the Chiefs Stadium, which holds almost 80,000, by the way. They had about 55,000 plus. And then the upper bowl, of course, was pretty empty because they are charging like even hundreds of dollars up in that upper bowl. This is not an NFL game, folks. This is a soccer game in which the U.S. is primarily hosting the Copa America. And they have priced out many, many fans. And on top of that, the U.S. team looks absolutely just like a total shit show under Berhalter in this tournament. Now they crashed out. And instead of playing on 4th of July against the likes of Colombia or even Brazil tonight or tomorrow, we are talking about whether or not Gregg Berhalter should be brought back or not. It's not a matter of if. When are they going to fire him? And we pretty much reached that. We've had it with Berhalter, and it's mundane soccer. And as you have posted there, Ken, American Outlaws, which is the largest U.S. support group, has released a statement yesterday, and I'm going to put it up there, that they are also wanting to demand a change.
Yep.
Fundamentally.
When you and I,
there it is.
There's the old statement when Lyndon Johnson said that when CBS anchorman Walter Cronkite criticized him for Vietnam, he said, "When you've lost Cronkite, I've lost America." I kind of joked earlier today. I said, when you lose the Outlaws, you basically have lost America. Well, the Outlaws are, as you mentioned, the biggest fan base for U.S. soccer. They travel very well, and they support the men.
There's also multiple chapters in multiple cities and states. Also, I mind you.
Yes, yeah, and they travel no matter where the United States is playing. There was a very strong contingent in Australia last year for the Women's World Cup. They're a great fan base. I've seen them. I've talked to them when they've had games in Foxborough. They're great people. And this is a statement, and it's a very huge statement. It's a very long statement, but basically it's calling for Berhalter's head. And I can't blame them, Stephen, because we're, as you mentioned, we're tired of seeing the same old for the last 6 years. The United States goes up quickly by 1 goal, and then they just play back and let the back line try to defend, and you just can't do that, especially against good teams. England is doing basically the same thing in the Euros. But I have to say, this is just really I don't want to say U.S. soccer is in a crisis, okay? Because they basically
I disagree, Ken. I think they are in a real crisis right now. Mm-hmm. I think the mismanagement, the way they conducted the search, where Jesse Marsh, who is ironically leading the Team Canada to quarterfinals against Venezuela, and they have a very good chance of advancing further. And Marsh was quoted as saying, he was never was taken seriously in the interview, and was not given treated badly. He was saying that. So I think that there is a bit of an incompetency that is very much rampant in this country in this day and age. It's kind of like interesting because at least from my perspective, Ken, that what I'm witnessing through sports, and also especially what the U.S. soccer is being happening right now, it's kind of like metaphoric as to where this country is at right now politically, or even from an economic social injustice standpoint, because you have a lot of people who are cowering to the powers, and then also trying to maintain that power any shape and form possible right now. And for U.S. soccer to maintain whatever they can to give Berhalter any excuse or any lifelines moving forward, it does not do well. I think there's going to be a huge repercussion from the fans, as you saw earlier about a fan who described themselves as middle-class fans who have traveled all over the country to watch the game during this Copa America, and then they've finally had enough to a point where they decided that they want Berhalter out. And after Uruguay knocked them out, and I will say that that game was one of the worst officiated game I've ever seen in my time I've ever watched soccer. But it was finally enough, and that I've decided to actually create a change.org myself that I've been promoting. Dismiss Gregg Berhalter as the U.S. coach immediately, which as of Monday night, Tuesday morning, when I created this, I've gotten 300 plus people to sign up for this petition.
Well, I'll sign up.
Thank you. And if anybody's bored, by the way, you are more than welcome to come here, and then I'm going to post the website as well if you want to see some massive changes here,
Yep. Let's
because it's time for smaller voices like us. You and I, obviously, we're kind of like minnows compared to what we go up against. But if we get enough people who have finally had enough or fed up, and then if we amplify our voices, even in situations like this, and then also against the likes of corporations, and also from a political standpoint, we can raise our voices and demand actions and changes. And
right.
I think U.S. Soccer right now is at a tipping point. Whether they decide to ignore us fans at the expense of pissing off many fans, old and young, new fans, not casual fans, if you want to call them that, and then continue to forge with Berhalter's boring, asinine soccer and his styles at the expense of pissing off again the old and the casual fans who are looking forward to the U.S. Team play in 2 years. In 2 years from now, Ken, it's just right around the corner. And at this rate, I don't see the U.S. advancing any further than where they are. And if they continue to piss off fans and then eventually piss off maybe sponsors, where we start demanding more against the sponsors to boycott their products and services, maybe I think the demands and the actions has to be probably taken into account. That Ken.
Right. Well, let's talk quickly about USA Uruguay, because a couple things. First of all, one thing was the camera angle, which was extremely high, which was produced by CONCACAF's host broadcast, not CONCACAF, but Calm the Ball's host
Combo
broadcast.
ball, right?
Yeah, it was Calm the Ball that was hired. That was called HBS. And they put a camera angle that was so high, it was so difficult to see the players. Even Fox complained. And from what I heard, several sources that called me, I was told that the announcers John Strong and Stu Holden complained about it, and even Fox Soccer, their account on Twitter, also even amplified that. Now that told me that A, Fox did not know about this angle, and B, they were very angry about it as well. So they met, and I know if you might have noticed, Stephen, right before the first half ended, the camera angle changed. Yeah, that's the high 10-story camera angle, and that's one that both John Strong and Stu Holden complained about.
Right.
Taylor Coleman tweeted out, and several people, Chris Whittingham also, both of them work for Apple TV Plus. They both noted that camera angle that Come the Ball was using was not the same that MLS uses in the same stadium for Sporting Kansas City games. So that's
Right.
a couple of games that they've done, like with Inter Miami, they go down to a lower level. They finally got that done. From what I was told, Fox complained about that, made a phone call to Come the Ball, told them that they wanted a camera lower. That's what happened. So they managed to get that camera changed, and that's why you saw all of a sudden it changed at right about in the 40th minute. The fact is that camera became what they quote unquote hot and live, and that's what you saw for the rest of the game. Many people started blaming Fox. Fox itself was complaining. It's very rare for a rights holder to complain about their position, the camera position on the air, but I think that's what they had to do to get that changed. Univision, which was also showing that game, had the same angle. Also, other I believe Copa America, Sky Sports was also showing the game in the UK. They also had that angle. So as much as people were trying to blame Fox, Fox managed to get that changed. So
Yeah.
that was a situation there. But you also talked about the refereeing, Stephen. Come the Ball, for some reason, had a referee that was young and inexperienced. For a game like this, you cannot have that. And that's why we saw, first of all, the referee was giving out a yellow card against, I think it was against one of the Uruguayan players, and then allowed play to continue. You just can't do that.
Exactly.
Stephen, do not show the video because we'll get a copyright strike on YouTube. But yeah, so what happened is that he was giving a yellow card, and then all of a sudden let play go on, and a goal was almost scored against the United States. Matt Turner had to make a save to prevent that from going in. But can you imagine if that went in, I mean, the ramifications of that would have been horrible. The referee was inexperienced, never should have been there. He also had some issues in earlier games in which he, when I think there was a story was that when he was refereeing another game, it was shown that in his bag that one of the team's kits was inside his bag. So
Right,
not
right.
bought off, but he was probably influenced and tried to be. He was maybe seeing a little bit. He's being too much of a fan. There was video. We don't show this, but please take that off the air. Take that off. We're gonna get a copyright strike. But there you can see the Christian Pulisic went up to the referee and he basically pointed to the celebration or the Uruguayan celebration, told the referee, "Hey, go join it because you just made so many calls." And then Pulisic tried to shake the referee's hand. The referee refused to shake his hand. But it just goes to show that calm the ball. This has been a joke. This whole tournament has been a joke. From, as you mentioned, the pricing, the parking, to the refereeing, to all the way to the broadcasting. This has been a very bad tournament for the organization of Calm the Ball. They should be absolutely ashamed by the way that they have been doing this. But you know what? They don't care because, again, they already got their money.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Everything bad about, as I pointed out earlier, the Copa America kind of exposed everything bad about the U.S. soccer that is so bad. And then even more worse news came out yesterday. I don't know, Ken, if you've been following or if you follow this, but a women's professional soccer league, NWSL, there was an issue with the San Diego Wave FC that there had been some problem involving the former U.S. Women's soccer team, Jill Ellis. There have been some like a brutality or like an assault. Verbal or maybe mostly verbal, but I don't think anything. I'd like to think that there was nothing physical involved. Bernadette O'Donnell, one of the staff members, mentioned that she brought it up to the San Diego Wave, who is a former communications manager, senior communications manager of the team. They were pretty much ignored or rebuffed. The organization, the management as a whole, did not absolutely do nothing. She was actually forced to leave the very next day, the day after she brought it up to their attention. And San Diego Wave, by the way, they have vehemently denied. They even released a statement saying that, this is false and that, there's nothing to it and so forth. We've had a lot of problems with the women's national team fighting for equality and equal pay. And, again, everything bad about U.S. soccer, whether it's the structural to, where a parents has to pay so much money to take their child just to play soccer. It's ridiculous. You only have a ball. And you could just put your kids out there on the streets in a safer area. Well, you only need a ball to play the game. Why do you have to pay like such a, shit ton of money just to be on a traveling team or something like that, just to be, to see, have your son or daughter, to be seen by, a bigger crowd or bigger teams when it shouldn't cost that much money. And it just makes it so really, really difficult. And I understand the, people saying jokingly that it only caters to the suburbanites, which tends to be, wealthy or do well crowd, mostly white people. Compared that to the inner cities of, Latinos and their family members, where soccer is the most popular and they're more passionate about. To be honest with you, Cam.
I mean, yeah, one of the reasons that Brazil, England, and other countries do so well is the fact is that they develop talent and they have their academies, but they don't have a pay to play. Okay. U.S. soccer, I don't know when this started, but they're going to have an academy in Atlanta. They're going to build it. But again, it's going to be based on who can pay to get in. This is not like Harvard. This is not like MIT. It shouldn't be like that. But you're making soccer one of the more expensive sports to play. And as you mentioned, you just put up a net or goal, you just put in wooden, or you just buy a net and just put it in the field and a ball, let the kids play and let them to learn that. And you get a coach, but instead they made pay to play such an issue that kids who want to play and parents who want to have their kids play a sport that is most popular in the world, it's to the point where they can't play. And that shouldn't be that way. It should not. And again, it's that the issue with not only soccer but other sports, as you mentioned, Stephen, hockey as well. But the one thing about why
baseball is also another one that it has like a traveling team that makes it not only expensive, but because it's played on mostly weekends. As a parent, I think anybody who experienced this can chime in. By the way, it takes up so much time on the weekends because you're playing like 2, even up to 3 games on Saturdays and even Sundays very early, from like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then once you're done playing, then you play another team straightforward. And if it's on the summertime, when there's no school right now, under such a massive hot temperature and humidity, you're exposing your child or other kids in such a very, very dangerous situation as well.
I'll say this about basketball. It's one of the reasons why basketball exploded was the fact that there were so many playgrounds and they let kids play with a ball. And that's why so many kids went into the sport, was because of the playgrounds. And they just had regular leagues. They weren't pricing out talent. A lot of neighborhood leagues just said, we're going to let you play. We're going to, if you want to play it, have a team, let's do it. They do this in Rhode Island especially as well. Neighborhood teams and neighborhood leagues, you don't have to pay to get in. It's not expensive. All you just need to, and it's an organized quite well. And a couple of YMCAs have done, in Rhode Island and Southern Rhode Island, have done a very good job in having their own leagues and getting teams of 5 or 6 to play during the summer, Stephen. And that's how it's a great way to develop talent. Soccer does it a different way. And as you mentioned, they have these tournaments that are so expensive. You have to go and play in as you mentioned, the weekends. It takes up time. You're traveling. You may be going, and where I live, North Kingstown does this too. They have a private soccer field. Kids just can't go on it. You have to rent time to get on it. And that's not right. It's not right to do that because it's a beautifully maintained field. I drive past it every day to go to work. But it's locked. It's locked until a certain time when the private league goes in there to play, and it's filled with kids. But it's for the parents who have paid for their kids to play, and that's not right. It's not right at all. And then as mentioned, it's pricing out talent. It's pricing out families, and you're only going to get a certain level of talent, as you mentioned, Stephen, those in the suburban areas instead of those in the inner city, which is where a lot of basketball players have come from. The Brooklyns, in the Bed-Stuys, they go, or even somewhere in Los Angeles, or they or right. Even Miami. They get in the inner city, and then that's how they get better, and that's how they play in the high school, and then eventually get recruited. But it's Stephen, I'm just amazed how soccer, which is similar how they've done it in other countries and playing in the inner city, getting kids to get to play in schools, and then eventually go into academies. And we've seen how players like Wayne Rooney, and we've seen players like Beckham, who are kids, basically kids, become famous because they go to academies and don't have to pay to get in those academies. They recruit, kind of like the college system, to get in, and they were able to develop talent. Europe does this all over the place. South America, Brazil was able to do this. That's how they were able to maintain great quality until it's fallen off recently. But Argentina as well. But the United States, I don't know why this system is that you're going to price out talent, and it's hurting the soccer. It's really hurting. I know we talk about this golden generation. I've never felt it was a golden generation, to be honest with you, Stephen. Because
at least after this tournament, we should never stop using golden generation to describe people like Pulisic, McKinney, where I think they're just basically expose themselves as an entitled, soccer players who just doesn't have the similar, motivation or drive that other players from other countries do have. And I think that, you said it very, very well. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering, why the fuck is it this country with this much, land and this much population can't even produce a decent soccer player, or at least more than people like Christian Pulisic? We should be able to have multiple Christian Pulisics of the world by now. And that's something that we've been talking about. Ken said it best from his experience, having witnessing the structure in this country. As I posted there, playing sports in this country is super expensive. It's only for the people with money, or at least those who live in suburbs, because obviously those people tend to move away from the inner cities to get away from the crime and the get away from being mixed with the people from other nationalities and so forth. Unfortunately, you're just basically sheltering your kids in that suburbanites area, where you only get to tend to play with similar kids of similar race and similar talent level. And then when you go overseas and playing against the kids from similar age levels or even a little bit older, you get exposed badly. You get to the youth level tournaments, whether it's in soccer, and then even in basketball nowadays, the gap has either widened in soccer, or the gap has closed, but they still can't close it enough. When they advance to the senior levels, they can't get over the hump. And even in basketball nowadays, the gap between the U.S. and Europe and then other countries have significantly closed in the last 20 years. We witnessed the U.S. Basketball team lose in the Tokyo Olympics last time, and it wouldn't shock me one bit that if U.S. loses again, or at least has to be, put in a very, very precarious positions as they advance further into the tournaments in the quarters, semis, or even the finals against the the teams like France, host countries. Obviously, they have plenty of talent, NBA talents now. Also the other countries with the NBA players, maybe Serbia, Brazil, Greece, Slovenia, among others. They're going to give US a run for their money, and that you'd probably be wondering, why can't we dominate sports like we're used to? Why can't we dominate sports? Why can't we produce a damn talent? Like we can't produce our own Kylian Mbappe's or Neymar or Vinicius Jr., Vini Juniors of the world. And then you probably have to think long and hard about why sports in this country is so segregated, or at least so expensive. Being expensive, which obviously leads to segregation of only certain people are allowed to play in the sports, which obviously cannot be true at all. And then, unfortunately, with the way the country's, or at least certain segments of the people wanting to change the country into such an authoritative state right now, we're probably going to see that in the society where certain people of certain age or race are only allowed to do certain things, which obviously we're used to seeing that with the 1960s, where Black people cannot sit in the go eat in the same restaurants, or sit in the bus, stuff like that. We're about to probably go into that level, unfortunately, Ken.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, it's unfortunate, and of course that's a discussion that's way up above our level, and we'll get into that probably at another time. But let's move on. Let's go to the UEFA Euro and the Copa America now going to the quarterfinal stage, Stephen. Both of those tournaments are going to go to the quarterfinal stage starting, I think, well, at least the UEFA Euros will start tomorrow with Spain and Germany and Portugal and France. Two very good matchups tomorrow, both on Fox. I'm going to say the home country, Germany, will advance to the semifinals against a very good Spain team. And I'm going to say I'm going to choose Portugal in an upset over France, because France has not shown me anything as of yet. And I think France is thinking that they can turn it on, but Portugal has shown some very good things. So I'll choose Germany and Portugal tomorrow. What about you?
I'll go Germany and France. It's a battle of two mid countries in terms of soccer. That is, of course, between France and Portugal, which is the final back in 2016 when Portugal won the Euro. Cristiano Ronaldo is still playing. He had a pretty bad miss in the the penalty kick in the extra time. I'm going to say France. I think France will find a way. They haven't scored a goal on their own. They've been kind of very, very lucky. There's no question about it. But I'm going to say France is probably going to find a way to get some goals here and then probably beat Portugal. The other other quarters is I think Dutch versus Turkey.
Yeah,
or Turkey.
Turkey. And then
one of the Turkey players is, I think, suspended because of the weird racist sports gesture I think he made.
Yes.
Yeah. So, soccer and racism, unfortunately, has become a very rampant problem all over the country.
And then, of course, England and Switzerland. England, which needed a
miracle.
Basically, they needed Bellingham and to tie the game against, I think it was Slovakia. England just played a really horrible game. They played really badly until about 93 minutes. At the 94th minute, right in the death, they got a goal by Jude Bellingham, to tie the game. And then in the first few seconds of the first overtime period, extra period, Harry Kane headed in a goal from a corner kick. It wasn't really a set piece. It was just the ball was bounding around, and finally he got the ball in the right place at the right time. So England goes against Switzerland. I'll say England will advance against Switzerland, and the Netherlands will go against Turkey. Although Turkey had a very emotional game against Croatia in the early rounds, I'm going to say that Turkey has run, and they have had a very vocal and very enthusiastic fans. Of course, they're right near Germany too, so it's very easy for them to get on the train to get into Germany. But I'll say that their run ends, and I'll say the Netherlands and England will advance.
Yeah, I think Turkey probably loses a firepower because of that suspension. I think Turkey will definitely give Dutch some problems. There's a lot of Turkish immigrants living in Germany. As somebody who lived in Germany for 2.5 years, some of my best friends and colleagues were from Turkey as well, living in Germany. But yeah, I think Dutch will advance. England and Switzerland, I think this is Swiss really embarrassed Italy. And they really did. And I wouldn't be shocked if Switzerland gave England fits again. I don't know if there's going to be another miracle in the works for England. So if they're going to beat Switzerland, they better finish them off within the 90-minute period, because you can't play another 120 minutes in the the knockout stage, where the depth and the fatigue is going to be tested. But yeah, I'll go England, but I wouldn't be shocked if Switzerland wins this.
Right. So let's go to the Copa America before the timer that we have. Argentina and Ecuador will be kicking off very soon. They're playing in Houston. What do you think about that one?
I think Argentina. I think if Messi is playing tonight, as expected, I think it will be a very good game. Obviously, they know each other from CONMEBOL, faced many, many times. So it's not like you're facing an opponent for the very first time. But I think Argentina's experience and history will probably prevail. 3-1 Argentina.
I agree with you there. Tomorrow it's Venezuela against one of the two CONCACAF representatives, Canada, Jesse March. Canada has not scored a goal yet in this tournament, but I think they scored one if not, just none. But I think that Venezuela will take this game and defeat Canada tomorrow. I'll think it's going to be a 2-0 game. Of course, Canada will have at least one thing to hang over itself over the United States, that they advanced farther than the United States. They got out of the group stage and got into the knockout round, but I think that's where their run will end, and Venezuela will beat Canada. What about you?
I have a similar feeling too. I think it would be maybe a 2-1 game. Venezuela will advance, and then the other one, what is it? Panama and Colombia, right?
Yes, and that's
okay. That's an easy one. That's Colombia will probably beat them again.
Yeah, so that means no CONCACAF representatives in the semifinals. And then the one that is going to be really, really tough. I mean, as much as I love Brazil, having lived there for 2 years of my life, and I love Brazilian soccer, Uruguay is just playing so well right now, Steven. Uruguay, of course, we all know the United States. This was a team that nobody in the group stage wanted to play. Brazil needed to defeat Colombia to advance, to at least play Panama, to get an easier game, to get an easier path out of the group stage. But instead, Brazil, they needed to at least tie, but they couldn't even do that. So they lost. I think they lost the game to Colombia. Now they have to play a very tough Uruguayan team. I'm going to say Uruguay pulls the. I'm not even going to say it's an upset. I think Uruguay will.
No, it's not an upset.
I think they would win. I think they could win 3-1. That's how good that this Uruguayan team is, and that's how poorly this Brazilian team. Don't forget, Brazil did not play very well in the friendly against the United States. Granted, they didn't have all their best players, but I really think that Brazil is not playing well in this tournament, Stephen. The joy, the football, the joada, the joy is not there. I think that Uruguay will beat Brazil 3-1.
I agree. I don't want people to misunderstand that because U.S. played Uruguay and lost 1-0, that U.S. probably put up a very good fight. No, it wasn't.
They did not.
No. Uruguay, at least from the game, from the offset, U.S. played a very good game. But as the time went on, Uruguay started to dominate in the position. And I know the goal that the Uruguay scored to beat the U.S. was somewhat very, very controversial, which is, again, nothing surprising out of this tournament, where CONMEBOL has significantly mismanaged everything, even the VAR. And I do agree. I think Uruguay, with their, tactics and I don't think this Brazilian team, even with the talent that they have, doesn't really scare anybody at this point. Even in CONMEBOL, where Brazil is currently struggling to, right now, at this rate, to even make the World Cup at this point. But I do believe that it will be a very good game, very feisty, very emotional. But I do agree. I think it will be probably more of a 3-2 game. I think Uruguay will get past Brazil, and we'll find out if Brazil will make a coaching change or if they're going to stick with the current manager and just see if they can ride it out and still make it to the World Cup in 2026. Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are our predictions for the quarterfinals in both the Euros and in Copa America. Next week, as I mentioned, we're gonna wrap up the show next week, and as I mentioned, Anna Yurka will be our guest next Wednesday at 7:30. I'll interview her, and then hopefully Stephen and I can get together sometime next week. We'll let you know on our socials. We'll have our live show. We'll do a live stream. Hopefully, the United States Soccer will have taken action against Gregg Berhalter and fire his ass and and I don't know. Supposedly Matt Crocker is going to have a conference about this. I don't know what he has to have a conference about, Stephen. You've seen the result. Fire his ass. Get him out of there. Get someone in there.
Right.
You got to do this yesterday because the World Cup is coming up in 2 years. You need someone right there, and also get some better scheduling. But anyway, we'll talk all about that next week. Hopefully, we'll see some new news. We'll also talk more about the Copa America and the Euros as they get into their semifinal and final stage. And we'll also, in any other big news, Major League Baseball All-Star Game is coming up. Ohtani is not going to take part in the home run derby, although there was the possibility that he was going to do that. He said he's not going to. I can't blame him because of his elbow, but we'll talk more about that next week. And in the meantime, don't forget to follow Steven at Asian Sports Fan 1 on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Follow me on Fangs Bites. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Fangs Bites, to the sub channel for the Double A team. All of our archived shows are there, and Steven's stuff about the Bears is on there as well. And in the meantime, thank you for watching.
Well, I wish everybody a happy 4th of July. We certainly had one more topic that we wanted to talk about, Bronny James and the nepotism, so-called nepotism, but we'll save that for our next show together. We devoted a lot of time on the U.S. soccer, which obviously had to, but we'll definitely focus on that and the other topics of discussion that Ken just mentioned, or our next live broadcast. Hopefully you'll join us again. Once again, happy 4th of July to everybody. And if you're going to go about watch the fireworks or have one on your own with the family, relatives, or even neighbors, please be careful. And don't be the next Jason Pierre-Paul and burn off your fingers. So I pray that, and I certainly hope that there isn't anybody who is going to be stupid enough to fire guns into the air, or at least anywhere near that area where somebody's going to get hurt significantly or even killed. Please be careful. I hope everybody will have a wonderful 4th of July, and we will see you next time on the latest episode of the Double A Team podcast live stream. Good night, everybody.
Good night.